Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to the History of Video Games. My name is Wes, and I am here with Ben. Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Wes?
I am also doing pretty good, yeah. So why don't you get us started off today with what you've been playing recently?
I'd be happy to, because I've been playing actually some games this week.
Oh, that's always a nice surprise.
Yeah. I had some time to boot up the third game in my Star Wars Jedi Knight series. So, as a quick recap, I played through Dark Forces, which was the original, then Dark Forces 2, and now this one's called Mysteries of the Sith. And it's technically an expansion pack for Dark Forces 2. So, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. It did come out like 2 years later, I think in 96, I want to say, maybe 98, something like that. But it takes place after the first or the second game. But it's kind of weird. It's like the same engine, but the voice acting is different for the characters, and all the like movie quality cutscenes are just in-game cutscenes now. Like it feels a little bit kind of watered down.
Oh, weird, yeah.
Because it's an expansion pack, I guess. But it does have 14 levels, which the base game had 21. So I feel like that's a decent amount of levels. And since it's an expansion pack, you like start off a lot higher level than you were before. So, for instance, before you had to like find a lightsaber and then you were a Jedi, but here you just start with a lightsaber.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just start with a bunch of force powers. There's a bunch of new ones, including saber throw, which I'm a fan of.
That's the dream. Like, anytime you want to play a lightsaber game, you're like, can I throw it, though? That's
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. What else? There's a couple other powers I haven't unlocked yet that seem like they might be cool. But also just the weapons themselves, like all the guns, because it's mainly a shooting game, honestly. But almost all of the guns you unlock in like the first like 2 levels, like from the base game. So you just get like the good guns right away, and then they introduce even newer guns. So far, they've introduced I think 2 new guns. One's like a different version of the pistol, which I like. I don't know. It reminds me of like someone like a smuggler would have a smuggler gun,
right,
pistol
yeah.
gun. And then they also had basically a sniper rifle
Ooh,
that was added. So that is really useful. And in fact, you had to use it in one of the levels to like go through a heavily defended position. And it also has like night sight, so it's really nice.
oh, sweet.
I think 6 or 7 levels in, so like maybe halfway, and it's a good time. But like still, like the places I'm at, it's like I defended a rebel base, and then I went to an asteroid, and then I went inside the asteroid, and then I went to like a bunch of gray buildings. It's like, come on, guys, where's like I don't know, some interesting locations? Not there, but the rest of the game is pretty good so far. I don't know what's going on with the story. I mean, I think I mentioned before, but at the end of the second game, you were at like the Valley of the Jedi and just like discovered something, and they never told you what it did. And this one, you just start at a rebel base, and it's like they never even have mentioned it, like what that was. But I don't know. It's okay, I guess. In this one, you just start out at a rebel base, and then it's under attack, and you're just defending it. And now, what am I doing now? I had to like, you play as a second character in this one. I guess you have a apprentice named Mara Jade, who's I think somewhat relevant in the lore as well.
Yeah, that at least sounds familiar.
Yeah, so the first like couple levels I played as Kyle Katarn, the main dude, and he had all his powers and stuff. And then the last level I played, I was her, and she only had like force jump, and like a couple weapons. So I think it's cool though. But as far as like other overhaul update things, it does look a little better. I think the texture quality is a little better, but you just get more enemies and more of the same, and I'm kind of about it. I'm not bored of it yet, so it's pretty good. I'm
Nice.
hoping to get through it kind of quickly, honestly.
Yeah, to get on to the good stuff. Now, was this the one you were playing that had the super crazy map in it?
Yes, yeah. So the mini map or not the mini map, but you can bring up a full scale map, and it's literally like a 3D view, wireframe graphics of the entire level. It's
Yeah.
really strange, and all the rooms are just like, since it's wireframe, it's just blank. But it's like, I mean, the levels are fairly complicated in their structure and can be like pretty vertical too. So this, I don't know, this kind of 3D map thing, it's kind of confusing to use. I wouldn't really use it, but it's kind of cool to look at, to be honest.
Nice. Yeah, that's neat that they did that, and that wasn't in the first game at all.
I don't think it was 3D, but it was like wireframe 2D, I think,
Hmm. I
in the
mean,
first game.
it's kind of a weird thing to make the decision to add, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
Whether it's super functional or not.
Yeah, it's not very functional, but it's okay. It is definitely like sci-fi futuristic feeling, which is nice.
Sweet.
But that's what I've been doing. What have you been doing?
Well, I am so glad you asked. I've actually haven't been back on the Path of Exile grind yet, but I just got the itch again today, and there was a little bit of stuff that I didn't really talk about the first time I mentioned I was playing it again. And some of it is just that basically to pat myself on the back, I went through some of the bosses that smoked me like 10 times in a row last time I played and
Mm-hmm.
got through like 3 of them deathless and 1 of them 1 death. So I was feeling pretty good, you know?
Nice, nice.
And at first I thought it was credit to like this random mishmash build that I made actually being okay. But I think half of, if not more than half, of living through boss fights in Path of Exile is just remembering patterns, uh, which I guess is for a lot of games. But
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. My build still might be trash. I was kind of hitting the wall when I was playing, and just like the random mobs in the world, not even the bosses, they were the ones who were like killing me the most. So I could just like get the boss down no problem. But as soon as a mob of people came to get me, I was getting smoked. But it's been pretty fun to go back through it. I'm going a little bit slower because last time I was playing through with a friend who's played through multiple times and just kind of wanted to go through it fast, and I was enjoying that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually like a really well thought out and cool story, which I guess you would expect from the people who made Diablo 2, even though I never really went back and played that, but I know how well beloved Diablo 2 is. But the story's insane. I mean, half of it, it feels like you're just killing things you shouldn't kill and then dealing with the fact that you killed it. Like, there's this thing called the Beast, which lives under this gigantic mountain, but it's also like part of the mountain. And you enter dream worlds to steal these 2 guys' hearts so you can enter the Beast with them in the mountain. And then you kill the Beast. And then all of a sudden, apparently, this Beast is just like the one thing that was holding all of the gods who actually live in this previously thought to be just mortal realm. It was like keeping them all asleep. So then, like, all these gods just start showing up. And the one guy, the god who made the Beast, is like, "What did you do that for?" You know, he's basically like, all my brothers and sisters out here, they're like pains in the ass, just killing all these humans, and I put them to sleep for a reason. And yeah, it's real cool because he's the god of like sin, but he's the one who guides you through the whole thing. Like he's kind of the good guy in all this.
Yeah.
You kill the god of innocence early on, and he's like going crazy with like overzealous justice and stuff like that. So it's not huge spoilers either. That's only halfway through the game. But yeah, it's really good. I'm spending a little bit more time just looking at the worlds that they build. There's a lot of repeated maps as you get through because the second half of the game is like you start at the original location and go through the same path that you did in the first half, but everything's like different and sinister. And now there's gods roaming the earth, so it's a little bit different in that sense. But they just do a really good job of like crafting this world and tweaking it and making it interesting to go through. So I mean, it's only my second time through, but I could see as somebody who runs like every single league, you still find some like cool stuff and still your favorite environments and all that as you run through it.
Yeah. I think it might be the best character title sequence that I've ever played. Like when you are creating the character and they're like in the ship, right? Or did they change that? Maybe it used to be like that.
I think they changed that, yeah, because now you're in front of the Statue of Innocence.
Okay. I liked it better when it was the ship. It just brought me in right away. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what? One thing I've been meaning to look up is I don't know if I would guess that at some point in development, like only Act 1 through 5 was actually released. I don't know if, because
Mm-hmm.
it's part 1 is Act 1 through 5, and then part 2 is Act 6 through 10. So if they did it in sections, it might make sense that they kind of changed the title screen, the character select as you went.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do remember that. Yeah, at first I thought it was a different game, but yeah, I think you're right. It was Path of Exile.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely remember it. But it's a really good game and it's free, so people should go play it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I played it, got like 50, 60 hours out of it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll pay a little bit and support the game. It's one of those like Warframe where it's you don't really feel bad once you put money into it because you're like, I've had so much time for this for free.
Yeah, definitely. All right, nice.
Yeah, but with that, I guess we should get started on our special topic for today.
Let's do it.
So today we are going to have one of the first real games that we just want to talk about and highlight from Lyjak and Konami. And we're putting both of these together just to let you know that for a while we're going to be using them interchangeably because Lyjak was the main distributor for Konami. So a lot of the games have sort of like Lyjak branding, but they were actually created by Konami when and then just distributed elsewhere. I think at first mainly through Japan, but then they did expand to the US as well. So for Lyjak, we were looking up trying to find history of the company, and for some reason we just like can't find anything. I don't know where they went now, if they're totally out of business, if they just don't do anything video game related anymore. But even searching them like without the context of video games at all, thinking they might be like an electronics company, I couldn't find much about them. So who knows? It may have just been like a smaller Japanese company who had a big distribution network at the time. But either way, the way that we're going to know them is basically just as like sort of the face of Konami for a little bit. The real history that we want to get into is the, of course, much more recognizable name of Konami. They first started making games in 77 and 78, really, and pretty much all of them were breakout clone variations. I think we mentioned some of them in the past, but towards the end of 78, as we're going to mention today, they also started getting into the Space Invader clone market. So it's going to be a while before we see like, oh, this is Konami making like a huge, interesting original property, which we've seen with most of these companies that we're talking about. They kind of first 2 or 3 years get some money by making clones of like things that they know will sell.
Mm-hmm.
But the company itself was originally founded in 1969 by a guy named Kagemasa Kozuki, who is still the chairman of the board of the company today. It's crazy
Nice.
to think that we're finally in the time where it's like it didn't change hand 5 times necessarily. It's this guy's still, he made Konami, he's still around. And the name, interestingly enough, comes from the 2 first letters of 3 people's last names, one of them being the founder, Kagemasa Kozuki, and also 2 other people who I couldn't find exactly how they were related to the company when it first started, but they were Yoshinobu Nakama and Tatsuo Miyasako. I don't know if I said any of those right, but
Yeah. I found out that Miyasako actually pulled out like really early, like in the mid 70s. I found an article that said he preferred to remain in the record business. So,
interesting.
yeah.
And that kind of makes sense because when the company very first started out, they made and repaired jukeboxes before they even really started transitioning to arcade and coin-op games in 77 and a little bit earlier to that. So maybe they started with much more tied to the music industry, and then once Kagemasa, I guess, decided to switch over to games, a couple of them left. But in 1979, one of the big things that'll happen is they'll start exporting their games to the US. So I'm sure that's when we'll see a lot more popular and worldwide recognition for these games because pretty much at this time they're just releasing in Japan. And of course, if the name sounds familiar, but you can't put your finger on exactly what they did, they have made or had their hands in a bunch of things like Silent Hill, Castlevania series, and the Metal Gear series, as well as tons of other things. So, very excited, even though we're just at the looking at them making clones of other games stage of their history. We know that good stuff's coming soon.
Yeah. The only things I want to maybe add to what you said, which is great, is one thing I find really interesting is that other than Taito, we don't really have any other companies in Japan like making original games. I think that's strange. Like Nintendo's still kind of like copycatting people.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of doing their own thing, but it's not good yet. And Konami's the same way. It's just doing more clones, which surprises me a little bit that still in 78 there hasn't been another big Japanese company to really like do anything other than Taito. So that to me is interesting. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, just wanted to make sure everybody knew Lyjack is kind of Konami. They originally were just the distributors, but at one point, Lyjack, I believe, did go under, and Konami actually bought Lyjack. And so they were kind of like together at that point. So I think at the moment, Lyjack is their own company, but very soon the two will be like just tied to the hip, basically the same thing. So we might use them interchangeably depending on whose name is on the cabinet, but it's the same company basically. And yeah, we're going to start seeing some of their games starting with today. So should we head over there? Maybe do some games?
Yeah, let's get right into it.
All right, so welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that amazing musical interlude. It was everything I wanted and more.
I went through the whole range of emotions.
Well, we're going to start off today with a very special one that I reviewed called Freecell by Paul Alfili. And man, Freecell, I kind of forgot about this game. It's a sleeper game for me, for sure. It's weird that I don't think we've even had a solitaire game, just normal solitaire before now, but all of a sudden we get Freecell, which is kind of a version of solitaire. And this was released on the Plato Network. And so Paul Alfili was like a college student at the University of Illinois.
Right, of course.
So this is in that tradition. And whenever we get any Plato game, it's always usually going to be a pretty big one, a pretty good one. And this is no exception. Freecell, when I was playing it, I had a lot of fun. And it's not that different from the Freecell of today. In fact, this is the very first ever video game version of Freecell, so it makes it extra special in a lot of ways for me. It's way better than Blackjack. I'll say that right off the back. So let me quickly describe how you play Freecell, because I kind of get it confused with Solitaire and other card games like that pretty often. So you've got like 7 rows, which I think is the same as in Solitaire. Or actually you have 8 rows in this version. You've got 8 rows, and all the cards are face up, and they're kind of randomly put in each pile, in each row. So, I don't know, there's like maybe 7 cards in each row at the beginning. Your goal is to find like the ace first, and then put it into basically a deck that's just that suit. So you've got 4 suit decks at the top that start empty, and your goal is to eventually put all of the cards into their correct suit deck. And the only way you can do that is by starting with the ace and then going 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So in this game, all the cards are randomly put in all the rows at the beginning. And if there's like an ace on top, you can just put it right to the suit deck. But usually it can be like a number 8, or something at the top of your column or at the bottom of the column. And you have to like move that 8 underneath of a 9 if you want to move it. Otherwise, you can't move it. So you have to move it underneath of a 9, which has to be on one of the other rows, like the last card of that row. And that 9 also has to be the opposite color. So between black and red. So basically, you're just kind of arranging the cards and trying to move them around so you can get to like the aces and then get to the 2s and the 3s and so on and so forth. And in Freecell, the kind of like special thing that makes it Freecell is that you've got 4 free spaces that you can just move any card and just hold them there. So if you get stuck, you can kind of take a card, put it in that free space. You only have 4, so you can't do it all the time. But you can put it in there, hold it. Like if you get a king at the top, like that's going to be the last card on the pile. So you can just hold it so it gets it away from the bottom of that row and then, use it later. Once you clear a row, you can then put any card in that row. So that's a way you can kind of move things around as well. Since there's only 4 kings and there's 8 rows, you should have a couple of free rows once you are halfway through the game. You can start moving stuff around. But that's essentially what the game is. I hope I'm not forgetting or missing anything.
I mean, that sounds like most of it to me. And it's basically pretty similar to traditional solitaire, except for those extra 4 spaces, right?
Yeah, 4 spaces, and then all the cards are face up right at the beginning, and on some of the other ones, there's like face down versions, and you flip them and stuff.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And the other thing I kept confusing, I thought, like, let's say I had a 5 and a 4 at the bottom, I thought I could just like take both of them and put them to a 6, but you can't. You have to put the 4 into your free space, and then move the 5, and then put the 4 out. So if you don't have any free space, you can't move 2 of them like that. And that's can be an issue sometimes. But that's essentially what the game is, and it's super simple. And yet, I'm telling you this, Wes, I played this game for like an hour. I just couldn't stop playing it. It's just, it's a great like puzzle kind of game. And it's interesting because it'll tell you if like you can't win. You can lose the game by making a move, like, putting a card in your hand, and because the cards are random, maybe you can't put it back because the card behind it was like a 5.
Right.
And you picked up a king or something. And you can lose the game. So the program knows that. So if it doesn't say that you didn't lose the game, there's always a move you can make. And that makes me just like sit there and stare at the board for like a while.
Right, yeah. Because I always had that happen to me where it's just like, I definitely lost, but I know I didn't because the game's saying I can still move and you have to figure out what the heck it's talking about.
Yeah, so that's always kind of fun. I don't know. I played it a couple times. I lost like 3 times, and then the 4th time I won. And it's also fun too. In this game, there's an auto move to the deck that you can set it to auto. So like if there's an ace at the bottom, it'll just put it in the suit pile, so you don't even have to worry about it. But that meant that like once I kind of moved the last thing over, immediately like 20 cards like went to the to the suit pile and said I won, which is pretty satisfying, to be honest. So it's just a fun classic game, one that I haven't played in years, and I did definitely play this game like habitually for a certain period of my life when I was really young, when it was on Windows 94 or whatever.
Right, yeah, running on 98 or
yeah,
I guess even on Vista, playing the old solitaire.
Yeah, so this is just a good version of solitaire. I really enjoyed it, and let me get into my ratings. Let's start out with sound, because it's easy. It's a 0 because it's on Play-Doh. There's no sound. So that is like the one thing that makes it kind of like a not modern take on this, because you just need like the little clicky right. that the cards give you.
Card flips, and yeah.
So that's unfortunate, but 0 there. For graphics, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. It is a little hard to read. All the numbers are either filled in for like red or just outlines, and then the background's like black. So those are the black cards. And then you also have the suit right beside it. So either a heart, a spade, a diamond, or like a, what was the last one? Spare?
Club. Yeah. Or spare.
Yeah. You can tell what they are, but it's definitely hard to look at. And there are times when I was like looking for like a black five, for instance, and I was just like staring at the screen, looking and looking. I was like, where are these fives at? And finally I found it, just because it's kind of hard to read it. The whole background is black, and then you've got this just row of numbers and icons for the suits. And all the numbers are in nice sorted columns that are wide enough apart so that it's easy to read that. And you also have the suit decks and the 4 free slots, and those are all really nice and look good. But a lot of the screen is black. I guess it's because you could put like 20 cards in one column or something, right? So they have to make the column really long.
Right.
But most of the time, it's just a couple cards in each column. So it's just kind of like the top of the screen, and then the middle part is just blank. It doesn't look great because there's no physical cards, no physical squares for the cards. It's just like a number and a sign. And the only time you get boxes are with the suit decks and the 4 free slots. But I don't know. It's definitely workable, and I still enjoyed my time with it despite what it looks like. But it's not a good looking game by any means. So I gave it a 1.5 there. And then for gameplay, considering I played this game for like an hour, I gave it a 4.5 out of 10. I was really happy with it. I don't know. I just couldn't stop playing it. I just love these kind of games, I guess. And since I've been playing chess so often recently, it's like kind of reminiscent of that, like a weird slow strategy game. And I really enjoyed it. I don't know. It's easy to lose and yet fun and hard to win. The difficulty is good for me. And honestly, like the inputting of the commands and stuff was super easy. In fact, you could just like click on the number, and then that would be like selecting it, and then click on where you want it to go, and it would do it, which is pretty cool. Most of the time, we don't have mouse support for these type of games. So I don't know if that's something that was added later, with the modern day Cyber 1 emulation of this game, or if it was in the original. But the use of the mouse is super nice. But even if you didn't have that, all you have to do is type the number of the column and then the number of where you want it to go, and it's good. And the fact that it automated the cleanup of the cards and stuff, and you can even click a kind of a shortcut to select as many cards in the column as you could using like the free slots that you had available. So instead of going like I want to move a 4 and a 3 over, instead of hitting the 3 going to my free slot, then moving the 4 and then moving the 3 out of my free slot, I can just do one button and it will do both for me because it knows I can do it. So
cool.
Yeah, there's some nice like little shortcuts and stuff, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. Maybe this game is just for me, and it seems surprising that we haven't gotten a simple basic game that does this yet. I don't know why, but it's a good game. So I highly recommend it. Freecell. And then for relevance, I went kind of high too. I gave it an 8 out of 10 because, Freecell is like one of the most recognizable early computer games, I think.
Yeah, for
along
sure.
with like maybe pinball,
It ships with every Windows operating system, except maybe it's buried on 10. I'm not sure. I'm sure it's somewhere. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, so this is the first one, and it's by the guys at the University of Illinois, which I love. So good job them. And for overall, I give it a 3 out of 10. I really loved it, but the graphics are very, very simple and kind of hard to look at. And there's no sound, and that makes it kind of boring. But I love the gameplay of Freecell. I could play it for another couple of hours, and how rare is it when I get to say that? So yeah, it's a good game.
For sure.
I'd still play it. I'll play it with a physical deck of cards. It's not, but it's, again, like, I'd rather play it on the computer though, because it's easier to set up and clean up, so it's a good computer game too.
That's kind of a big differentiator from all the other card games we've seen too, because it's like 21. It's so easy to set up, or blackjack, as well. You might as well just play it in person. Like, that's part of the charm for me. And this, it would be a tens across the board if all they did was add the card sound and
Yeah.
have the classic game win animation that the Windows versions have, where the cards just bounce and fill the whole screen.
Yes. I know. And it is a little annoying that it's not like true color. The Play-Doh games never are in true color, but they did do a good job with having them be filled in for red cards and outlines for black cards, because you can tell very clearly what they are. But I do wish it was true color at the same time, though. It'd be nice to see like an actual queen. And also, they couldn't do 2 digits and the symbol. So for the longest time, I didn't know what I was looking at because there was these T's in the field, and they stood for 10.
Oh.
So it's like K, Q, J, T, and then 9.
Right.
So yeah, there's some weird stuff, but it definitely works. It's a good game, so I really enjoy my time with it.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, let's move on to something completely different.
Oh,
Oh no, not in the sense that it's a bad game, just in the sense that
okay.
the game itself is completely different.
Okay.
The first game I got to take a look at today, a console actually by Nintendo, the TV game Racing 112. This came out, we have a very specific date on June 8th of 78. And we've seen and mentioned a couple different consoles from Nintendo before. The Color TV game series, which were, if I remember right, all of them were just Pong variations and different Pong games.
Mm-hmm.
This one, though, is, as it says, a TV game racing. It is a racing console. The console itself is pretty large. It had this big, like, detachable steering wheel right in the center of it. It's notable because this is allegedly the first or one of the first consoles that Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, had some input in. I don't know, like,
Okay.
I don't know what his level was at the company, but some people were saying, oh, he had some input in this. He like helped with the design. So always cool when that's involved in some way. And it is called the 112 because it had 112 different game variation combinations. And the way that this broke down is there were basically 7 different game modes with 16 different difficulty options, which I'll describe a little bit more when I get into the gameplay of this. But other than that, just for some background about it, this was the next in the series of Color TV game systems. Like the previous Color TV games, Nintendo's name wasn't like displayed anywhere on a nameplate. It was just like written on the bottom in the plastic. And I think this is partly because they were distributing, or their manufacturing was being done by Mitsubishi Electronics at the time. And so they weren't like, I don't think they were big enough to like put their own name on it and have it really get that recognition. Or maybe it was as part of their agreement with Mitsubishi. So they didn't have that on there yet, but I think this is the last console they do that doesn't have some sort of Nintendo nameplate on it. This one in particular sold 500,000 units, which is less than the previous Color TV games, but still pretty impressive. And I think it did sell just in Japan. I know the console itself has Japanese characters all over it. It's not really like it was really translated.
Mm-hmm.
And the original price for it was 18,000 yen, which in the janky conversion and then inflation thing that I did, it's probably about 270. Although I don't trust myself to see what inflated yen is today and then convert it to dollars and have that like actually mean the right amount, just because of the way how money and inflation works. But that sounds like about right. Like $300 today for what a console was back then might have been like, I don't know, 150 or something like that. And I think Nintendo at this time was trying to make cheaper consoles. So getting into the gameplay for this then, the several variations are all of a speed race style racing game where you're going up the screen and you're dodging cars. Your car's actually staying in the same position, but it's meant to look like you're moving up the screen. And you get a point for each car that you pass. There's no time limit in this, I think there's a hidden time limit. There's nothing displayed on the screen, so it's just get as many points as you can before the game ends. And as for the different variations, the different game modes were either 1 or 2 player, and it gets a little foggy with me what the actual game modes were and what the actual difficulty variations are, because there were so many different settings on this. You could also play as one player in either a 2-lane road and you only played on one half, so it was a tighter space for you to move around in, or a spacious road which took up most of the screen. And yeah, to be honest, I'm blanking on which one's which, but let me just go through all of the different variations that end up adding up to that 112. So then, other than the 1 and 2 lanes, you could also do smooth track, which there wasn't any variation in how your car drove, or occasional dirt patches on the track, which the whole track would turn brown and then your car would kind of jitter and become less responsive to movement. You could do barriers on or off. The barriers were always visually there and blocked your car, but when you turn the barriers on, it would count as a crash when you hit, and you'd stop and have to start over again. If you turned it off, then you could hit them and nothing would happen. They're just a wall that's there.
And they're just like on the sides of the track, right?
Yes, going up the sides of the track. Yeah, there's no barriers in your way. The game could also be played in 2-player, I think, at slow, medium, and fast game speeds. And in 1-player, I think just medium and fast, although I wasn't too sure on that aspect. But either way, in 1-player, you have the ability to shift. The shifting just kind of second gear goes faster in fast mode and a little bit faster in medium game speed. And then in 2-player, when you do those game speed settings, you're just always accelerate up to the max speed instead of having the shift. Another setting is that you could do swerving cars. So instead of opposing cars moving down in a straight line from the screen, they would bounce across the screen in this like crazy zigzag pattern, like halfway across the screen. Sometimes they would go back and forth twice and then continue their way. So it was pretty hard to dodge. And then you could also make it so it was either 1 or 2 cars coming down at a time that you had to dodge. You don't get more points on the 2 cars version. It still only counts 1 point when you go past both of them. So it's just a difficulty setting, basically. And so the interesting thing about how you played this is that there was only the one steering wheel. And there's a shifter on the console so you can go in first and second gear. But the shifting is only 1-player mode, because when you're doing 2-player mode, you use like Pong dial controllers instead of the wheel. So it's a little weird that you don't get to use the wheel at all when you're playing 2-player mode, but as somebody in the video I was watching pointed out, it is nice that one person just doesn't have the steering wheel and the other person has to compete with this little dial. So it's a bit of a strange thing if you're playing 2-player not be able to use it at all, the like main attraction, but I guess it is a nice feature so that they could have 2-player. So then getting into my ratings for this, for graphics, I gave it a 2.5 out of 10. Overall, the graphics are pretty simple. This is a first generation console, I should mention, so all the games were on the console, no cartridges, and the graphics kind of reflect that. It was typical boxy cars, but there were colors on this, true color, which was really nice. 1 color for the outside of the track, 1 color for inside the track, and then a nice thin white strip for the barriers on the track borders. But part of what makes this really nice is some of the better first generation Pong consoles we've seen. With each of the game variations, there's different backgrounds and your cars change color, or at least for some of them. And so there must be at least 8 or 16 total different colors on here, with some weird ones like pink and yellow, and then there's greens and browns for the dirt patches. So that made it up for it a little bit for the fact that it was just simple console graphics. And the other big plus to graphics for me is that it just runs really smoothly. I always have, I don't know, nightmares, I guess, when looking at these speed race games on a console and thinking like, there's no way this is going to make it feel like you can actually move fast. But in this, it does feel like you're moving fast. And there might be jittering when you have everything on the fastest speed and 2 cars at once, but if there is, it's not that noticeable. So that was really a plus for me. It looks like it runs really well, and even if everything's simple, at least it's all clear and not jittering all over the place. So then for sound, I gave it a 2.5 out of 10 there as well. The engine sounds are pretty good. They're really high-pitched, which is strange. But, I mean, it does what an old video game engine sound you think would do. Changes pitch based on how fast you're going, which I don't know if we've seen too many times on a console, so that's a nice touch. The crash noise is also okay, but it's not like an explosion. It's just like this warning beeping sound, which is different than most other car games, so that's nice, but I do kind of like the explosion when you crash. And probably the best part of the sounds, which is why I gave it a 2.5, is that there's a little song that plays when you get 50 points, which we always like to see music, and especially on the console where we don't get to see it much. It's just a little 3-note sequence, but somehow it kind of reminds me of the like charge at football games, like that cheer. So it's similar to that, gives you that same sort of vibe. And lastly, there's a typical like drag race countdown noise, which is always a nice touch in racing games. So before you start, it gives you the 3 beeps to go. So even though there's not each one of these sounds, I don't think is really fantastic. Altogether, I think it's a pretty nice assortment for a console.
A first gen console too.
Yeah, and a first gen console.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which really, probably one of the few first gen consoles that has music on there. And I don't know, a lot of the stuff, it's like this does first gen console really well, even if it's not blowing me away.
Mm-hmm.
And then for gameplay, I gave it a 3 out of 10 because, I mean, we've played a lot of games like this before. This version looks pretty fun. The different controllers are weird, but it also means there's plenty of reason to play either 1 or 2 player modes because they seem pretty different in that aspect. All the different variations, even though I wouldn't call them like 112 unique things that I want to play, they all seem pretty challenging, but doable enough that you want to keep trying them. It runs smoothly, which puts it way far above tons of other racing consoles that we've seen. But it does suffer from the same problem as most console racing games that we've played in 2-player, where if one player crashes, both players stop. The whole screen is moving at the same time, so that's still a rough part that I can't wait till they figure out and just like let each player have their own side of the screen. But other than that, I just thought it looked pretty fun overall. And so for relevance, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Apparently, this is the last console where Nintendo didn't display their name, like I was saying, so I think that's important. And also, the game gets recognized by Nintendo. It'll show up later as a minigame in a WarioWare 3DS game in the future. So it's like, I think the previous color TV game is the first one that Nintendo referenced in Smash. But so we're getting into the era where they're like, hey, these are actually the cool consoles that we made. Mm-hmm. And even if this isn't a groundbreaking game necessarily, I feel like it helped to solidify Nintendo's choice to stay in the gaming market because all these games are doing pretty well in Japan. And a little bit of relevance for the fact that like Shigeru Miyamoto might have like touched this console as he was walking down the hallway or whatever they said. So it seemed like a very loose connection, but who knows? Maybe he did help with some design aspects of the case or of the games or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that it's one of the only unique first-gen consoles that we're going to be covering in 78, and it's still sold like okay. Like the video game Crashes 77 hit, and Nintendo's like, no, I'm going to keep doing it, and they're still going to sell.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that has something to do with the Japanese market specifically, but yeah, and that series seemed to be really popular in Japan too. So yeah, it's awesome and probably very encouraging for them to be like, oh, hey, we can keep making games. Although thankfully, I don't know how many more first gen they're going to make. So hopefully they'll move on to other stuff soon. So then overall, that leaves me with a 3 out of 10. I wouldn't say there's exactly 112 like unique, exciting game modes, but there definitely are a lot of fun variations. And when you base that off of some solid core gameplay, I think it works out pretty well. Console has pretty good graphics, pretty good sounds, and just that together with the gameplay makes it feel like a much more well-rounded first generation racing console than most of the others that we've seen. So, it's not innovating that much for 1978, but still it's just this well-rounded experience from a first generation console that I really wasn't expecting.
Nice, man. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, and of course it's Nintendo, so I might have been a little biased, but it actually does look like it plays pretty well, and it's pretty fun.
It definitely gave me some pyramid vibes, from the pyramid console.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly. The Telstar, I forget what it was. The arcade.
I think it's arcade, right?
Yeah, similar to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah. All right, so let's move into some honorable mentions now. We're going to start here with the People's Computer issue that they released in July and August. There's just a couple small games in here that I thought might be interesting. One's called Baseball by Garth Dolahite. It's kind of an RNG baseball game, but it seems better than other RNG games where it showed you a number on the screen. So let's just say it showed 50, and then you chose whether or not you wanted to swing because it was going to pick another random number second, and if they added up to over 100, it'd be a good ball, and if you swung, you would hit, basically. So it was kind of like random, but you had some control. If it said like 80, or like, okay, that's probably a pretty good chance that I'm going to hit the ball. If it said, 30, probably not. So there's kind of a weird gameplay thing in there, but it is definitely RNG at the same time. And also in the same issue, they had two kind of pure RNG and betting games. One was called The Gambler's Paradox, and then the other one was called Concentration, which, it's concentration, which we've covered before. But, they're basically RNG games, essentially, and just basic versions too.
All right. And then moving on from our People's Computers issue to some arcade games, we have Knockout Boxing by GameX Amusements Incorporated. Apparently had left and right hand throws and a knockdown animation, but we found so little information on it that it might not exist.
Yep, and moving on from that, we had one that looks absolutely incredible. There's like a couple 15-second videos on this. It's called Pyramid. It's by the company Sankyo, and it's basically like a Pong pinball breakout type game where you're hitting blocks, but instead of just being in a bunch of rows, they make an image of like an Egyptian head, or a bunch of Egyptian what are the lions called? Sphinxes, yeah. And just other like really cool looking Anubis looking dudes. I don't know.
Nice.
It's really good. The level of detail and the quality of the images are crazy good. But I just couldn't find any videos of the real gameplay. Like, I don't know if it's breakout or if it's more like pinball with flippers that hit the ball. I don't know. So I couldn't do a review because I didn't have enough information on this game. But based on the flyers and the little, like the attract mode I saw and stuff, it looks absolutely incredible. But it must have done poorly or something because it's just not really around today, or nobody's made videos of it. So it's a sad miss, unfortunately.
Then next up, games that we probably have too much information on. Space King by Konami and Lejak, which is when I mentioned that there is going to be a Space Invaders clone by Konami a little bit later in 77, or 78, sorry. Mm-hmm. This one came out in July, and basically, just Space Invaders clone with some unique sprites. The coolest one of those unique sprites is probably that the user's ship is now just a tank, which is nice. Cool change there. And then we also have Space King, the same name by Sonic, which came out at some time in 78, and probably a clone of Konami's Space King, or maybe just a clone of the original Space Invaders. It's hard to tell.
And then moving on from that, we have the game that I was going to rate second, but I just didn't have enough videos about it. It's Super Speed Race 5 by Taito. It came out in July of 78, and it's the next version of Super Speed Race, which Wes reviewed in late 77. And I was really looking forward to this one, but I only found like 2 videos on it, and honestly, it looked very similar to Super Speed Race. A couple of features that I thought were notable. You can let me know if you think that these were in your game, Wes, but the headlights could turn on.
I think that was?
Yeah, I think so too. We didn't have much info for that review either.
No, yeah.
But the headlights could turn on. There was a kind of a special event where like a bus or something came up from the bottom and a bunch of sirens played to tell you it was coming. And then there was, I want to say, snow on the track because the track kind of like turned white and slippery at one point. But it's Speed Race, just like in the Racing 112 that Wes just covered. Your car is basically still, but it feels like a bunch of cars are flying down at you. Since this is the Taito, highest level quality version of this game. It's in true color, and you've got trees and stuff that are falling on the sides. It just looks really good. But the only difference I could really tell between this version and the original Super Speed Race is that Super Speed Race 5 has the 5 there because it keeps track of the 5 highest scores on the cabinet and displays them at all times. I don't know if it did anything else, and that's why I didn't feel comfortable rating it, because like I have the flyer for it. It's in Japanese though, and the flyer has a picture of like 5 switches and different pictures with the switches in different orders, and I'm like, what are these switches trying to tell me? Like, I can't tell. So are these variations? Do they change how the gameplay works? I don't know. I just don't have the information, unfortunately. So it could have done a couple small different things, like with different variation switches, but it seems pretty similar to Super Speed Race. I think we're just going to have to wait until Midway releases their version next year, which does have emulation and tons of videos and stuff. So we'll have to just check it out then. But it's a little unfortunate that I couldn't really find much good information on this. So we're just going to have to pass it for now.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of those ones where they added like a small feature and changed the cabinet to remarket it. Because all those gameplay features you mentioned, I do think they were in the Super Speed Race I played. But who knows? Yeah, the switches could have been like the operator could change something in the cabinet or for different tracks. But yeah, so we'll see soon about that, hopefully. And then we have Speed Race CL5/TT Speed Race CL, cocktail table version of that by Taito, which came out in October of 78. And these were the Spanish release of Super Speed Race 5.
Yeah. And even though it came out in October, we're just going to cover it now because it's Super Speed Race 5, that version. So might as well.
Not too much different. And then next up, we get to the second game that I got to take a look at today, and it is another cartridge for the Atari 2600. These things are still coming, or at least we're still spacing out the second wave of 1978 cartridges. And this one is called Slot Racers. I had to look up what a slot racer is because apparently it is a thing, but it's those little like electric cars that you slot into a track, I guess, like the ones that they have at arcades and you race them around this little like magnetic or electric track. So that's what a slot racer is.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. It might be, they're almost like RC cars, but they have a set track and you can kind of like race them. And depending on how well you turn it around the turn or do the throttle, you can actually win doing that.
Gotcha.
And that's what this is based off of, sort of, except it's also like sci-fi, and the cover art or the art for the cartridge on this is crazy. It looks like straight out of the original like Speed Racer anime or something. It's real weird. It was the first game written by Warren Robinette, who would go on to create some of the most popular games for the Atari 2600. So we might be mentioning him a little bit later on. And yeah, that's really all for the background. It's just kind of this wild out there one, which we kind of expect from Atari. The gameplay for it, though, is it's a maze game where you could shoot missiles at the other player. There was only 2-player. There was no single player versus AI mode. And you're kind of like navigating around this maze in what are supposed to be slot race cars, I guess, shooting missiles at each other, getting points every time that you hit the opponent. And the game had 9 different game variations, which games 1 through 4 were all game modes where the missiles traveled faster than the cars, and each numbered game mode that you go up, everything's faster. So at game mode number 4, the missiles are super fast and the cars are super fast, but the missiles are still faster than the cars. And then in game modes 5 through 7, the cars are faster than the missiles, but same deal. Keeps going up in speed as you go up the numbers through that. And then lastly, in game modes 8 and 9, the missiles don't automatically turn, which now is a good time to mention that since you are in a maze, the missiles would automatically turn around corners when they encountered them. At first, I thought that people playing this were, like steering the bullets. Really, the only way that you can affect the missile is when you fire it, you can move your joystick either left or right, and that will determine whether it loops right or left around corners when it encounters corners. And it'll like keep doing that. Like if there's a square instead of like a series of hallways, it'll just loop around the square forever, I think. So I don't think there's too many sections like that. There are 4 different mazes that could be selected. They are predetermined, not randomly generated. But they do provide a decent bit of variation. Some have some open spaces. Some is just like a typical maze, or more like a square that you can navigate through. It's kind of like a symmetrical maze. And then other ones are more just like dots and spaces hidden throughout. So they have all those. The missiles can loop around the corners if they need to. And the weird thing is that the cars will also loop around corners when they need to. If they go in a dead end, they will turn all the way around. If they encounter a corner and they have nowhere else to go, they will turn. But then you can also control it with the joystick as well. But it's apparently not Pac-Man controls where like up is up, right is right. It's all relative. So like if your car's facing left and you want to go up, you turn it right because you can only turn clockwise and counterclockwise, left and right on the joystick. Down is brake and up is throttle, which for like some of the flight games that Atari has done for the 2600 makes sense. For this game, it just seems really weird. Like looking at a maze and holding up and saying, okay, now my car is going left. My brain just could not compute. Maybe if I spent more time with it, I would have gotten better at it, but it was very strange to me. And the whole game you go through just trying to shoot each other. And when you get hit, you kind of get like launched. You don't explode and respawn. Your car just goes like flying in the direction that it was hit, which is pretty funny. And it'll take those like automatic turns around the corners and stuff as it goes flying at them. And the first person to get 25 points wins. So getting into my ratings for this, for graphics, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10. As we mentioned, I mean, the further we get into 78 and more years, the Atari 2600 is looking a little less and less amazing. Still a great console, but the colors are just all right in this. There's only blue, yellow, red, and white, but they don't change with any of the 9 variations, which, considering we have combat, which has like 5 different templates, color palettes, based on all the different game modes, it's weird to see that this didn't even have like 2 between 9 game modes.
Yeah.
The cars themselves are really simple. It's just like a rectangle with a line on the back. They do this weird thing where you turn, where the front section of the car like moves in the direction that you're turning. So it just kind of like slides and looks like it's half connected to your car. It doesn't look like something a car should do, but I guess it's the wheels turning or something. So that looks a little weird. I guess it does make it easy to see which direction you're going. The 4 variations of the mazes too. It's nice that there's 4 variations, but they don't look super visually impressive. They're all right, but they're not super interesting. For sounds, I gave it a 1.5 out of 10 here as well. The sounds are okay, but there is a lot of silence in this game. There's an increasing speed noise as you accelerate, which sounds spacey and kind of strange. So sort of it's this weird sci-fi Tron, even though Tron's not out yet, genre that they're going for. There's also a hit noise, which is pretty satisfying. It kind of sounds like someone hitting like a slap shot in hockey. It's just like this big slap, which is a great noise for just shooting it, especially because the car goes flying across the screen when you hit it. So it's pretty comical there. But those are just kind of the only noises in it. And they're just kind of okay. And since there's not anything else to add on to it, it's not that interesting. For gameplay, though, I did give it a 2.5 out of 10. On the fastest speeds of this game, it's absolute chaos. Like, the cars are just zipping across the whole entire maze. I doubt the player can even put in inputs as fast as the cars are going, so they're probably just auto-turning around all the corners that they see. It's almost like too fast to see what's going on. Since the missiles and the cars can do their own turning, that adds a ton of mayhem. The design is interesting for this game, and that's kind of why that and the chaos is why I gave it a 2.5, but it doesn't get much higher than that because the steering is so weird. The lack of a single-player mode really kills the gameplay for me. And the throttle and relative steering just feels so odd. Like I said, like you're going left, you're pushing up to go right, or to go up, you hit right. Like I don't like it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wish that you could just individually toggle all of the different game variations. I feel like with all the settings they have, there would be more than 9 game variations, unless I'm overlooking something. So it's weird that they don't just let you do that. I mean, maybe some of them, for whatever reason, just like broke the game.
Right.
I don't know, but it's just like if I want everything on fastest on this maze and I want my bullets not to turn, is there a game mode for that or not? Um, and so for relevance, I gave it a 4 out of 10. It's really quirky and fun, which is kind of what we expect from Atari, but I don't think it's very impactful. It does have like a vague feel of a Mario Kart game, but it's definitely not close enough that I would say it's got any relevance towards Mario Kart. It's just kind of 2 cars shooting at each other. So it's almost there, but far enough away that I can't count it for that. So then overall, I gave it a 2 out of 10. It's a pretty cool addition to the Atari 2600 lineup that you could definitely have some fun with, but I just kind of expect more settings, a single player mode, more colors, more sounds from it. I like that it's a weird and interesting game design concept, but there's just not enough options for what this game could do explored for me.
Right. It is a weird one. I don't know. I feel like are people asking for this game?
Yeah.
I feel like they were like, let's do a maze game, but we gotta spice it up a little bit, and we'll just call it Slot Racers.
Yeah, for real. It really feels like someone like had a portion of an idea, and they're like, "How far can we stretch this?"
Right.
And to be fair, they made a game. I just don't know if it's like the one anyone really wondered needed. You know?
Yeah. I guess having the cars like not be able to stop is what makes the game unique. But I don't know if it's like a good feature. Like you're in a maze and you're turning corners all the time, and then not be able to like stop and think, where am I? Where am I trying to go?
Yeah.
It's a little strange thing, but
On anything but the slowest speed, it felt to me like you have no control. Like,
right.
except for choosing when you shoot the missile. And that's something I didn't mention, although I guess I kind of implied it. You can brake, but you can't stop and you can't go in reverse. So you can only like loop around. You're always going forward.
Right. I think it would have been interesting enough just to have the bullets go around corners by themselves. I think that's an interesting thing just by itself, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you had to be moving the whole time to make that work.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah. It's all right.
All right, cool. All right, we got one more for you guys. After I couldn't do Super Speed Race 5, I thought, well, maybe there's a different one I could do. So I looked up this next one. It's an Atari prototype game called Boxer, or sometimes I see it called Boxing. We do have emulation of this, although it's not perfect. And there's some videos of it, like of the emulation. I haven't seen any of an arcade cabinet or anything, but it was a prototype. It was never released. And I tried to download and play it, and I just had no clue what was going on. So I didn't want to rate this one either, because like I couldn't even tell if my inputs were inputting. Like there was at one point my guy just stood there and I was hitting every button on the keyboard.
Oh no.
But then there's other times where I'll start up the game and he's punching his arms a bit, you know, when it kind of like with me doing the arrow keys. So I don't know what's going on. Even the times when it was working, I had no semblance of how to play the game. It basically just felt like the AI rushed you, got on top of you, and you could like spam your buttons, but there was nothing you could do. So I don't know how to play the game or what the game even is. But apparently, the original arcade cabinet had gripped handles that could be swiveled left and right to simulate punching for each player. I guess it was like a 2-player cabinet game. And on the prototype, the problem was that people kept breaking the the handles because they were like putting punching strength into it.
Right.
So they kept strengthening the controls, but unfortunately the game didn't test well enough to be released anyway, so they just canceled it. But it sounds like it could have been fun, almost like a VR boxing game is how I imagine it. If the controls kind of swiveled in the way that I'm thinking, it could have been fun. But certainly playing it on a keyboard, it's just like you can't do that. So, as far as like what it looked like, it was black and white. It has like it's pretty well detailed figures. It's not just stick figures. Like there's a body to them and stuff. And there was no sound in the emulation, so I can't help there. It seemed okay, but it seems like it would have been extremely hard to control and to play and to get good at. It felt more like a here's some joysticks that simulate punching, just spam some buttons and see what happens kind of game. Yeah. Which they could be fun too, but I don't know. It wasn't a good game, and I think that's why it was pulled. I think there was like decent animation, I would say, with these black and white characters, but I don't know. It wasn't that good. So
right. Am I thinking of the right one? That this was almost like a top-down view of the boxers, or
yeah, it's like a top-down view.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
There's going to be other boxing games that come out like for the 2600 that's also top-down, but this one's for an unreleased prototype arcade, and it's just black and white. So that's how you can tell if you're looking at the right one. So maybe it did influence the Atari 2600 boxing title that came later, but this one's a little bit weirder looking. And I don't know what the gameplay is for the Atari 2600 title, but this one was certainly like, I don't know if it's just you're just punching wildly and hoping. Like right. Kind of reminded me of what's that like kids game with the blue and the red robot?
Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah. It felt like that a little bit. But yeah, so that's that one. Boxing and Boxer Atari prototype. But that's gonna do it for us today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. We covered a little bit of the history of Konami and Lyjak. I looked at the first ever game of Freecell, which was really fun, and I'm almost tempted to go and play even more of it. That's how much I liked it. But the graphics are just really bad though at the same time. And then Wes, you checked out Nintendo's next console, the TV game Racing 112, which had 112 racing games on it, apparently.
Something like that, yeah.
And then I kind of looked at Super Speed Race 5 and Boxing and Boxer, and then you did Slot Racers, which was a very interesting and unique Atari 2600 title. So still waiting on that second batch of Bally Astrocade games.
Yeah.
To see how they stack up with what Atari's come out with since then. But I don't know, I'm still kind of feeling the Astrocade's just like the one now.
Yeah, if the lineup is more stuff along the line of Slot Racers, Astrocade might have it beat. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Then again, maybe the next like 3 Astrocade games are like Hangman, Math 1 and 2. I don't know.
You never know.
So we'll have to see.
Yeah. So as always, make sure to check out our website if you want to take a look at everything that we've covered so far with images of the games and some descriptions of what we've talked about. Follow us on Twitter. I'm going to start posting announcements of what our next episode is about so you guys can get excited for what you're about to listen to, and send us an email if you have any questions.
And with that, we'll see you next time.
See y'all next time.